I mean, AAP stands for Kaam Ki Rajniti. Yamuna cleaning is one huge unfinished agenda, partly due to Corona, and after that, our leaders were jailed. BJP released its Sankalp Patra, the second out of I don't know how many. One thing they said is that we will make education free only for the needy in government schools. I mean, this is literally undoing almost everything that AAP stands for. I wouldn't say Congress is a serious contender, but BJP and AAP are the two big political parties. And in terms of their vision for what Delhi needs to be doing or what the government's duty and responsibilities, I don't think it could be any more diametrically opposite. BJP takes especially, pride in completely making sure that elections are done around communal agendas. You'd hardly see them talking about what is it that they've done for Delhi.
Hello and welcome to the Indian Express. We're very fortunate today to have with us Jasmine Shah. He's just written a new book. It's being talked about quite a bit. It's called The Delhi Model, a bold new roadmap to building a developed India. Jasmine is giving almost an insider's account. He was vice chairperson of the Delhi Dialogue and Development Commission, which was basically the Delhi government's think tank. He's helped shape a lot of the policies that we identify with the Aam Aadmi Party government in Delhi in education, in pollution, in healthcare, and some of the welfare schemes that are now being talked about and debated. But also, of course, Delhi is heading into an election, which is one of the big political events of the year. So we're just going to chat with Jasmine about his book and maybe a little more. Welcome, Jasmine, to the Indian Express. It's
Thank you.
so lovely having you.
Thank you.
First thing, Jasmine, so what is your role right now? Are you in the Aam Aadmi Party? Are you officially working?
No, I'm always been a part of Aam Aadmi Party, but my term in the Delhi government, where I was heading the think tank Dialogue and Development Commission, just ended a few months back. So right now I'm an Aam Aadmi Party member working towards the elections.
Okay, so I've read the book, but for those who haven't, could you just tell us briefly what you mean by the Delhi model? Because this model has been, there's a Gujarat model, there's a model from the south. What is the Delhi model according to you?
So the Delhi model of governance is fairly unique, as I argue in this book, in the sense that it prioritizes bulk of the government's focus in investment into human capital, while at the same time providing high quality public services to all citizens. And I say that because over the last 10 years, the AAP government in Delhi is the only government in India since independence that has consistently invested nearly 40% of its budget into health and education. It has brought about a huge change, I would say, in many other core sectors that affect the day-to-day quality of life of people, be it electricity, be it water supply, be it the public transport network. And I would argue that even on pollution, which gets talked about a lot in North India, I don't think any other government has made so many reforms or undertaken so many initiatives as the AAP government has. And some of the results do show that we are headed in the right direction, though a lot of progress needs to be made. So this idea that, and why it is important is because at the pan-India level, we don't seem to be following this approach. For the longest time, everybody talks about Viksit Bharat, India ko developed nation banana hai. But if you look at our investments into health and education, be it the all India average or average for all states, or at the union government budget level, our investments into health and education are reducing. Our human development indices are falling, even though we are becoming richer as an economy and growing as an economy. So I've written this book with the twin purpose of, the Delhi model is discussed and I think debated sometimes in national air and national media, but I don't think the nuances and the intricacy of what exactly did the AAP government do that has brought about these radical changes and almost set new benchmarks in governance. But the second is also to hopefully start a more critical conversation about what is the development path or approach that India should take. And I believe Delhi model offers some clues and some directional, at least clarity in the way the India should probably develop in the coming decades.
The two other models that are talked about, one is, of course, the Gujarat model. We heard about it a lot, especially 2013, 2014, in the run-up to Prime Minister Modi's first election. First election as Prime Minister, when the BJP came back in the center. The second is what we see as the Kerala model, which is also in some ways arguably a focus on social indices.
Yeah.
Literacy in healthcare is considerably higher than the national average. Then Tamil Nadu, which is in fact in that sense more recent, a very large state,
Yeah.
One of the largest states in India. Again, the kind of poverty alleviation that's happened there, as well as say the midday meal scheme starts with Kamraj way back when, and now is a national scheme. So how do you favorably or unfavorably would you compare this to these two models? Let's just take
Yeah.
these two to begin with.
So, uh, see, first of all, I mean, as far as in my book is concerned, the only comparison I draw is with the Gujarat model. And also because, comparing with what every other state has done is outside the scope of a book like this. Gujarat model, because as you correctly said, the most recent conversation nationally that we have had is the Gujarat model, and somewhere it was being touted as something that everybody should adopt. Now, it's very clear, and I think almost all the experts who have studied Gujarat agree that yes, while Gujarat has managed to achieve very good economic growth, the development part of it, the human development part of it, it has lagged more than almost all the states. It actually performs in the worst 5 states in India on most health and education parameters. Its spending into health and education is amongst the lowest. And I talk about in this book that in the Human Development Index, Gujarat ranks 21st out of 28 states. In average wages, it stands 19 out of the 20 large states. So literally, the common man, the Aam Aadmi, doesn't seem to be better off. Now, as far as the southern states are concerned, I think there is a lot that everybody in India could learn from them. Kerala is an example of without much economic growth. I would say it was not a leader in economic growth at any time, but it has managed to overachieve in human development outcomes. Tamil Nadu is very interesting, which is high growth as well as good performance. So in that sense, I would say it is a more rounded model of development. And both of them, I think that these models or their trajectory have been fairly unique because it comes from social mobilization, caste based movements. So there's been I think almost half a century of progress that these states have seen to be where they are. uh, I'm not very sure how much scalable or replicable they are because it's grounded in their own unique ethos. I think Delhi model probably offers a far more replicable model because there was no cultural or societal movement in some sense. Yes, the Aam Aadmi Party came to power because people were tired with corruption, and India Against Corruption movement was a national movement. But within 10 years, a government has managed to turn around multiple sectors, be it education, be it health, electricity, water supply. And I believe that is where many states, and especially in northern India, which are very low on human development indices, have a lot to learn from probably the path Delhi has taken.
But uh, a counterpoint to that might be some people might say that Delhi is also unique, not in the social and this thing sense, but one urban. I mean, it is a city state. So fundamentally, you have concentrations of population that make certain programs easier. So, for example, take Uttarakhand, where an average school may will have far fewer just students. So, or Himachal, hilly states where you have just less population. So your local school has to be because of Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan between in this distance, not enough student. So 20 बच्चों का school है जिसमें एक class 1 में एक class 2 में just for regular revenue. We see scalable. There's just not enough people to have that many teachers, that kind of infrastructure that you'll have in a Delhi. Same in education. Arguably on transport, things like road, Delhi has an infrastructure advantage over many states because of perhaps by virtue of being the capital as well as one of the biggest cities in India now for some decades. So those advantages are also not replicable. So given that, some people may ask, Punjab mein to ho gaye 4 saal, where aap
2.5 साल हुए, 2.5.
2.5 years. Are we seeing similar results in Punjab? And is it on that trajectory? Because there is the easiest place aap could do this.
No, so first I'll answer your question of replicability. And, I argue in the book that yes, Delhi is a small microcosm of India. I mean, no, I think very few countries in the world have the kind of diversity. I mean, you're talking about Uttarakhand, go to Northeast, right? It's very different. But I make the case that, in 2015, on many of these fundamental sectors and their parameters, Delhi was really not different from other states, right? So, but Delhi has managed to achieve a change. And what I do, so I have 6 sectors which I dive deep into: education, health, electricity, water, transport, and air pollution. In each of these sectors, I end by actually concretizing some of the principles of Delhi model, which I believe are broadly scalable. I mean, for argument, yes, Uttarakhand may have a very different geography, but that doesn't mean that Uttarakhand can improve its education system by reducing its budget. No, the starting point is allocation. The next I talk about is having system level design. Many states fall into this trap of saying कि 5 schools of excellence बना देंगे, 10 model schools बना देंगे, but then the rest of the system suffers. Even at the pan India level, we have this PM Shri scheme, that has a target of just improving 15,000 schools. There are 10 lakh government schools. We've never had a vision for what to do with our 10 lakh government schools. The role of principals and teachers into reform, how do you carry them along? How did we build motivation and trust and respect with these cadre? So a lot of these essential principles, I believe, are scalable. The exact formulation for what that reform roadmap may look like will differ. But I do believe that what we did in Delhi was not rocket science and was nothing overtly unique. I would say that yes, on transport, because we are a very tight urban geography, our lessons are probably more scalable to the metropolitan or the large cities in India. But on health, on education, I would say on water, electricity supply, the way we have improved, provide 24 by 7 electricity, managed to keep our tariffs by optimizing our power purchase cost. A lot of those, I believe, are applicable to many states.
One of the things that comes out in the book, before we go to the Punjab
Yeah.
question, actually, I want to just do a follow up on this, is that one of the things that people say is that, the way it's framed now, the way this debate is framed politically is that A, paisa nahi hai, B, that this is also the trickle down economist thing is you're introducing inefficiencies when the state acts, right? Fundamentally, that one of the things your book brings out, but I'd like you to actually tell our viewers now, is why it's not that kind of trade off necessarily. Just if you could explain that.
Yeah. Um, Interesting. So, when I started putting this book together, uh, the question was, because a lot of people, one of the motivations was also a lot of people were not able to relate as to what is the larger economic model that AAP believes in. Uh, and if you actually look at, one of the most I mean, a lot of leading economists in the world agree that this trickle down model has actually failed countries. I mean, very few countries. I mean, this entire idea that give all the money or government focuses largely on making sure that the top industrialists are able to invest, give them tax cuts. India has done corporate tax cuts, loan write offs, all of that. Gujarat is the poster boy. I mean, no state, I believe, has done more than Gujarat for the big industrialists. And this idea that eventually this prosperity will trickle down. Now, US has seen almost half a century of trickle down. Joseph Stiglitz writes about it, of how average wages are stagnant. People are not doing, minimum wages have not increased, and even in India that's been the experience. The counter to that is a trickle up kind of an economic approach, which is what actually the AAP government in Delhi is following. And here the idea is that the government's main focus should not be to roll out the red carpet and throw money at the big industrialists, but to do everything they can to improve the earning capacity and wages of the Aam Aadmi, of the middle classes and the lower classes. And that is why health and education are today an article of faith for AAP. We believe if you provide free and quality education to every child in the country, that is the surest recipe for economic growth. Provide high quality public services like electricity, water for everyone, not just for those at the bottom, and also provide these transfers, which allow people to live a life of dignity, but in a sense create demand in the economy. If we are giving free electricity, water, those savings are actually going to be spent in the market. And today the biggest challenge in India is that there is no demand. So who will invest? You keep giving incentives, and I think Indian Express did a fantastic story just last month, front page top lead, that corporate profits have grown 4 times in the last 4 years, but the average wages have remained stagnant. This is like classic trickle down. I mean, we see this in front of our eyes, but there doesn't seem to be much critical discussion. And I believe, I mean, the fact that AAP has done this in Delhi for consistently for 10 years, and yet we have seen great economic, I mean, I would say our economic growth is at par with the rest of the country, but we have the lowest inflation in the country. We have amongst the lowest unemployment rates in the country, and we have the highest minimum wages, which, by the way, is again one of these things which will take the country forward. So I believe that is how AAP's larger model has a lot of potential for others in the country.
Right. Now, Punjab.
Yes. So Punjab, we have been 2.5 years, and as the principles of what we are doing in Delhi, and I completely agree with you that the biggest test for the scalability of our model will be in Punjab. The good news is that yes, in Punjab, we have started, bringing in a lot of these reforms in education and health. I'll give you an example. In Delhi, it took us 10 years to set up 550 mohalla clinics. In Punjab, in 2.5 years, we've set around 850 mohalla clinics. It's one of the most popular healthcare interventions. We have a lot of our reforms in education, upgrading infrastructure, teacher training. We started sending our teachers abroad for training. A lot of other curriculum innovations, business blasters, we have started implementing. In electricity, a lot of work has gone on. Today, Punjab is almost close to 24/7 electricity. Farmers are getting higher supply of electricity, 300 units free. So some of these things have started happen. Of course, the biggest constraint in Punjab is the fiscal space. Punjab was the most indebted state when AAP came to power. I think we were more than 52% debt to equity, debt to GDP ratio. Today we are at around 46%. So part of, I think, taking all Delhi's reforms and putting it in Punjab will also be a function of how you spread it. Even in Delhi, by the way, we did not introduce all of these reforms in one go. Especially in education, the first 1 or 2 years were only about repairing the infrastructure, the happiness curriculum. A lot of curricular stuff came in later. So hey, I think 5 years is a good time for us, and I'm sure at the end of these 5 years, we'll be able to show something very common.
But in a place like Punjab, when we're talking about the scalability of a model, I'll ask one more on this, is that, so Punjab, for example, healthcare will arguably have to take into account rehabilitation because you have a drug menace of a kind. So the Mohalla clinic will maybe look different from the way it looks in a Delhi. Is that already happening? Do you see? Is that something that's built into the way you guys are approaching Punjab vis-a-vis Delhi?
So, see, for especially on the issue of drugs and rehabilitation, there are different interventions. There are separate clinics that are set up for that. Punjab used to have. See, in most of these cases, it's not difficult to know what needs to be done. A lot of experts. I mean, even Mohalla clinics and stuff, it was not just us. We worked with many organizations. I make this case in this book that what AAP has done is actually access the best ideas out there and put it together. The question is about political priority. The fact that health should be the focus of the government, and let's innovate and bring in the best models. Mohalla clinic is accessible primary healthcare, that at least takes care of 90% of people's needs. But you will have specialized, like for maternal and childcare is not integrated into many mohalla clinics. So that is one area where the traditional PHC structure, or we're figuring out what to do. But on rehabilitation, the idea is to scale up these standalone clinics, but make them easier to access. Make sure they are high quality staff, well trained staff, and people don't have to pay any fees. So I think we are sort of working on those interventions.
And I want you to talk a little bit, education and healthcare, AAP has said a lot. I'll get back to that if we have time. But, and it's also well known. In Delhi, I think, even outside of people talk about the Delhi school. All our reporters, when they travel, good or ill, the Delhi model in these two aspects is a subject of national discussions. But you also mentioned air pollution and electricity. Those of us who live in Delhi will have a sense of it, water similarly. But the two that are contentious, one is transportation. I want you to tell me how transportation has been improved and the transportation model for urban areas. And the second is perhaps linked is pollution now.
Sure.
Both of those things.
No, absolutely. So let me start with transportation. We have always believed that for a city like Delhi, not just from pollution angle, but also in terms of affordability, private transport is not the answer, right? Public transport, Delhi should have a world-class public transport system. Obviously, the Delhi Metro started something around 1998, and in the first 17 years until 2015, when AAP came to power, Delhi Metro had a network length of around 200 kilometers. In the last 10 years, we have doubled the network length. It's become 400 kilometers. The number of stations have doubled. So few people realize that, yes, while we've been working on health and education, there's a lot of investments. It doesn't happen automatically, right? So a lot of investments has gone into growing Delhi Metro what it is today. The ridership has gone up 3 times. It was used to be 25 lakhs, today it's 65 lakhs. In terms of buses, we are seeing the most, I would say, the one of the quickest transitions of from a CNG fleet to electric fleets anywhere in the world. We are today at around 7,700 or 7,800 buses. We are targeted to reach around 11,000 buses, I would say 10,500 buses by the end of this year. Out of that, 8,000 will be electric buses by the end of this year. Today, we have 2,000 electric buses, which, by the way, is the highest in the country and third highest in the world outside China and Chile. We have initiated complete electrification of our bus system. So around 1,500 crores are being invested only in making sure all our bus depots are electric bus depot. Now, when you immediately look outside Delhi, there are very few cities or states investing in this kind of at least the vision of taking your transport. Maybe it will take you longer. Another thing I must talk about is our electric vehicle policy. Delhi has the most progressive EV policy for any state government. And as a result, our registration rates of EVs in Delhi is the highest pan India. It's around 12% of all newly registered vehicles. We have one third of all charging stations in the country. All of this has happened in the last 4 5 years, and because of government policy, government intervention. Uh, Now let's come to pollution. In pollution, I think first the headline figure, right? If you look at over the last 10 years, the 3 year average PM 2.5 levels in Delhi has reduced by 45%. This is CPCB data. And how has that happened? Because multiple initiatives that have been taken by the Delhi government, one or two even by the center, uh, which by the way have not been taken anywhere outside Delhi. And that is why that's the point that Delhi seems to have actually stagnated. There's a lot of improvement that has happened, but now we are stagnating. What have we done? We have shut down all our thermal power plants. We have moved all our polluting industries from coal to pipe natural gas. We provide 24 by 7 electricity, which, as I told you, I mean, Noida, Gurgaon, if you go to even the poshest of colonies, there are no DG sets. So there are 3,000, more than 1,000 brick kilns that are, polluting. Outside Delhi, more than 11 thermal power plants are polluting. Uh, I talked about EV, public transport investment. So all of these things have put together. But, Delhi, multiple studies today show that only 30% of the pollution that we breathe within Delhi comes from sources in Delhi. The remaining 70% come from the larger region. The challenge with air pollution, I believe it's the unfortunate part of it, is that there doesn't seem to be even, I would say, a fraction of the seriousness when you go to the surrounding states, and worse, not even at the national level. In the last 10 years, Akash, I can tell you hundreds of press conferences addressed by the chief minister of Delhi on pollution, saying this is what we are doing, this is what we'll be, odd even kiya, sab kuch kiya. How many press conferences has the prime minister talked?
Well, that's a larger question about it.
No, but that's this is a regional. I think we need to agree that this is a regional issue on pollution, and until we have a national plan. By the way, cities like Beijing globally have addressed it because the government, the federal government, came in and spent something like 17,000 crores every year. We don't do that, in India.
The other thing, of course, with the Delhi model is it is also that Delhi is, of course, a rich state. Always has been, but it's a small population. But I want to, and that is part of it. But what are the kind of hurdles in spending that money because of the curious nature of Delhi? There is I mean, whether or not, how and when, and should statehood be a part, to work in the kind of constraint, because because now actually the only other state which is, there's two other states which are similar, Jammu Kashmir and Puducherry to an extent, right? So they're not. How do you see that kind of constraint even moving forward, where we have an election coming up? Let's even if these achievements are there, they say arguably education, once infrastructure is done, curriculum is set, the teachers are broadly trained, parents are invested, it can at least for some time run on an autopilot mode, right? I mean, if not autopilot, it can certainly, there's something that's built that can sustain itself for a particular amount of time. Healthcare, on the other hand, needs to be constantly. Say a mohalla clinic, which is where there have been, in fact, it's been less universally lauded perhaps than the school system, because it is something that you need to constantly have the medicines. You need to have money to pay the doctors. You need those files cleared. You need those checks cleared in the sarkari way, of course. It's not that simple. How do you see that affecting the Delhi model as a whole? Or how do you see that informing it because of its focus?
One needs to recognize that from the day Aam Aadmi Party came to power in Delhi in 2015, we have always operated under serious obstacles, right? Within the first few months, the anti-corruption branch was taken away. The control over bureaucracy has not been taken away now. Currently, it's just the New Services Act that was passed. But in 2015, MHA brought out a notification and took those powers away. The fact that all the stuff that I write about in this book, and I'm sure your viewers know, has happened in health, education, is because there is a political will to actually push the system. See, there are a lot of entrenched interests. There are reasons why our government schools don't perform well, because most of the politicians run the private schools. Similarly with private hospitals, water tanker, we used to have these mafias that would run the roost, and political bosses used to operate them. So despite everything that is a constraint in Delhi, the one theme that I underline in the book is that it is the political will and the priorities that make it happen. Yes, the pace of doing it may be slower in Delhi than in other places, but at least you are pushing in the right direction, and that is the result that at least, let's say out of 10 things that AAP may have wanted to do, or out of 100 things, I feel we have done at least 80, and the remaining will continue to push along.
This political will is an interesting point.
But sorry, I'll also make the point that nothing is in autopilot. Nothing, no, nothing at all, not even education.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example that we used to take a lot of pride in sending our teachers and principals abroad for training. For the last 2 years, we have not been able to because the Lieutenant Governor has stopped this. That doesn't mean we'll stop trying.
Of course.
The mega parent teacher meetings that happen, the Ambedkar schools that we have launched, the kind of happiness curriculum, everything can be undone as quickly as so there is, I want everybody to know that there is a political will. There are hundreds of people, thousands of people putting effort into what you eventually see as the Delhi education model or the health model or whatever.
Okay, but for a model, now there's two kinds. One is the way the Gujarat model was used, which is actually was, one can argue that it had a political purpose as well for that. And this is also, and this of course, but I mean, Aam Aadmi Party is going to win elections. That's wants to win elections rather, right? So it has a certain. But say when we talk of the Dravidian model, the Kerala model, one of the reasons why it is considered a more durable thing is that it is government proof. In both Tamil Nadu and Kerala, whether, I mean, now of course things are a little up in the air, but in both states it was either LDF, UDF, AIDMK, DMK. And there was a lot of politics. These are two of the most political states, in the country. But there was a consensus on the model.
I agree.
Right? There's a consensus. Ki, acha, no one is going to stop a midday meals in Tamil Nadu ever. That was the thing. No one is going to say ki the canteens which are giving decent food to working people should be stopped. Right? Kerala, similarly, no one's shutting down hospitals or whatever the equivalent is. Do you think for this to really be a model, beyond the Gujarat model kind of thing, to be a sustainable model, it needs a broader consensus? And do you think, politics aside, is it possible to have that in this day and age?
I think it's $1 million question, and the difference I would argue with the southern states is that they come a lot of the politicians who come, I sometimes my friends in Kerala tell me that the people in Congress there are more communists than the communists there. So they come from the same cultural ethos and they have shared values, and because it comes from a societal movement. Unfortunately, in Delhi, and I'll give you just one example. Today, BJP released its Sankalp Patra, the second out of I don't know how many. One thing they said is that we will make education free only for the needy in government schools. I mean, this is literally undoing almost everything that AAP stands for. For the first time, we made education completely free for every child and offered quality education. Here's a party that's coming and saying, first of all, there's no larger vision, but saying that we will start charging students for education. Just, I think a couple of days back, Rajasthan, the BJP government in Rajasthan has shut down 450 government schools. So, I mean, forget about preserving it. I fear there is a huge risk of derailing what has happened, only because these are the political options. Today, I mean, I wouldn't say Congress is a serious contender, but BJP and AAP are the two big political parties. And in terms of their vision for what Delhi needs to be doing or what the government's duty and responsibilities, I don't think it could be any more diametrically opposite. And yes, there's a fear. And probably I would say today, Delhi model, there's a conversation because we have something on the plate. Yes, even with AAP coming back to power, I believe this model will have to continue proving itself for probably a longer period, for people also to know how it does. Because you're right, in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, it's taken probably 25, 30, 40 years, I would say half a century of, transformation. And I'm very hopeful that Delhi, whatever work we have done is robust, but it can be undone if you have a political force that does not share the same value.
You don't think it's like a Manrega, to be fair? Like Manrega was, I mean, there was a lot of talk about reversing it and taking it away.
It's interesting because for the first time, BJP is coming saying that we will give these freebies. And you should see their faces when they talk about freebies because they know they don't believe in it. But अब क्या करे देना पड़ेगा चुनाव लड़ने के लिए. It just makes you suspicious. Now, I'm not saying that everything can be so easily done because today there is who is AAP's biggest constituency today? It's the parents of the 18 lakh children who study in our government school. It's the 2 crore patients who have visited our Mohalla clinic. Somewhere that pressure will be there, but I'm not very sure, if everything will go on as smoothly.
But the final this thing, so one of the criticisms of AAP, not from the Delhi model perspective, was that, I won't tell you who said it, but I will quote someone saying that a cheaper electricity bill is not a political ideology. The whole thing used to be that and we are in Indian politics now, we're in an election. There is politics apart from development, which is fortunate or unfortunate, one can debate in another time. But is that, so for example, and you see now with the last few, as I said, one is that, Atishi was, CM Atishi was saying, and before that, Mr. Kejriwal. So one is that you see the cult of personality coming up again, right? So of only Kejriwal can do this, right? Like this sort of, it's almost as though the model you want to be agnostic, but the politics surrounding it is personality centric to a set. And the second is, everyone is always accused, rightfully so perhaps, the Congress of being soft Hindutva when it feels itself in a corner, of basically doing. So when this recent announcement that in the school, which is your flagship, arguably of the Delhi model, officials will go to check bachcho ka, if they're, infiltrators, is the word used. What does that do to your, let's say that happened, let's say it's implemented. You're in the classroom, policeman in the classroom, or whatever version of policeman, may not actually be a policeman.
For us, the Constitution of India is the Bible. All the values espoused in the Constitution, and you actually talk about how many parties truly follow it. We believe we follow it to the hilt. But this idea that a government needs to invest in human capital, there is an idea, there's a vision at play as to what will take India forward and make it a developed nation. I think today AAP has it very clear, and it's very distinct from traditional parties. In terms of the personality cult question, when Mr. Kejriwal also talks about our work, he talks about the Delhi model. He talks about that here's the party that has for the first time. And in today's day and age, I mean, the message is, I would say, the Delhi model or AAP's, larger vision for the country. But the messenger is also very important. The same message. Let's say if tomorrow Manoj Tiwari comes and says, "मैं दिल्ली सरकार के स्कूल को ठीक कर दूंगा," would somebody believe? So that's the messenger, and there is credibility in Mr. Kejriwal. I mean, Atishi has shown, she's been part of the government, she's delivered, and for people, I would say message and messenger are both important. We cannot devalue one. But today, the kind of leadership that you see in AAP, I think very few political parties can say that there are so many faces. I mean, and we saw that when the top 4 leaders of a party were in jail, and still the party was intact, the government was functioning. So AAP is not just one person, but AAP doesn't have any shortage of talent. But yes, Mr. Kejriwal stands, tall amongst the masses as a mass leader. I forgot the last question.
The last question was soft Hindutva.
Yes, on the rowing. So now
and other Bangladeshi infiltrators.
So now this is important in terms of how AAP tries to counter BJP's politics. See, BJP takes especially pride in completely making sure that elections are done around communal agendas. You'd hardly see them talking about what is it that they've done for Delhi. They have a government in center, law and order was under them. Today we know that Delhi was a crime capital earlier, but today it is undoubtedly the biggest crime capital in the country. And many other, on law and order we have a lot to work on. But they've sought to bring this Rohingya narrative at the peak of the elections. Staying silent was not an option. And what we did effectively is to challenge the BJP and saying, "ठीक है, आप दिखाओ रोहिंग्या किधर है, let's just do a survey, let's just do, and let's find out," because their argument is that Rohingyas, somehow Arvind Kejriwal is flying Rohingyas from I do not know where. I mean, this is their argument. When the borders are in their control, all the intermediate governments are theirs, and Delhi police is under them, and AAP is being accused of bringing so-called infiltrators. So we have called out, I would say, their farce, and they were making this argument that नहीं आपने इनको स्कूल में बच्चों को ये करा. See, I would say that for us, it's important to show that there is nothing wrong that AAP has done. And if, let's say, we do find, if there are any migrant children that are found, let the government of India policies decide what's to be done. But we will not stay silent when somebody alleges wrong onto AAP and tries to divert the election from...
I don't want to harp on this one, but to be fair, the Rohingya and Delhi thing, even during the Delhi riots and the aftermath, in fact, Atishi wasn't chief minister then, of course. I think she was education minister. I don't even think she was education minister. This was before everyone.
Yeah, no, she was not.
But she was one of the party's tallest leaders. Many others, in fact, I have a list somewhere. But no, they were saying that the Rohingya are responsible for the Delhi riots, for example. Almost saying quite that.
No. I don't think. I actually do not think.
I'll find it. But anyway,
sure.
But the point is this. But this is the old soft. Even if that is not the case, if the old soft Hindutva argument, the criticism was that, aren't you worried that by keeping this, that you end up playing the BJP's game in that sense, going by what opposition says is BJP's game?
No, so I think AAP has a very distinctive role to play. I mean, AAP stands for Kaam Ki Rajniti. Our work, We want our identity to be our work and the kind of vision we have for the country. But at the same time, one needs to counter BJP's narrative. You cannot, give them a free run, as sometimes I feel other parties do, to say that they are the only people to think about, let's say, Hindus or some communities. But we will never ask for votes. We are never going to campaign on the basis of these agendas. For us, our work is eventually what we hope people of Delhi will vote us again.
Right. Final question, Jasmine, before we let you go, is so far you've identified certain things for the Delhi model. What would you like to see it progress into now? What are the next stages on a model like this? For say, if even in the limited sense of urban governance, if you wanted to say, what are the next things that should be happening?
No, so I would say Yamuna cleaning is one huge unfinished agenda. And I talk about it. I have a chapter on Yamuna, and part of it is also because the last 5 years there were a lot of obstacles. I mean, partly due to Corona, and after that, our leaders were jailed. But we have a plan of collecting all of Delhi sewage, treating it. There's a City of Lakes project. Some of these ideas, I believe, take more than 10 years. But I would say, river pollution is one huge thing. On air pollution also, it's not that Delhi has done everything it has to. In fact, in each of these chapters, I talk about the unfinished agenda, because until we say that Delhi is as developed as the top cities of the developed world, we are not there. And on roads, we talk about how Delhi's roads need to be upgraded on international standards. Again, there's a plan, there is a roadmap, and I'm very sure in the next few years, we are going to see a lot of work happening in that. In health and education, I feel we have progressed far more than other areas. And there, it's literally, I think, probably in the next 5 years, we should be able to say that we have as good healthcare and education as comparable to any top city in the world. And I really mean it when I say that.
Well, I hope you're right. I know many people will disagree with you, but I hope this is an occasion for debate on policy
And
as much as
informed
needed.
debate.
Informed debate on policy. Thank you so much for having us. Everyone, like, subscribe, share. Keep watching the Indian Express. Thank you.